What is up guys, Stu here. So today I've got a little bit of a different video for you guys. I've never tried out a video like this on my channel, but I've been keen to do it for a while, and it's only till now that I've decided, you know what, I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna do this shit. So if you guys are keen-eyed, or have just watched any of my shit I put out in the last couple of weeks, you'll see that I put out a review of The Wailing, which is a South Korean horror, thriller, fantasy film, which you guys know, if you watch that review, absolutely blew me away. I was not expecting to be quite so gripped by it and to have my head quite so fucking fried by it, but I was. I got to the end of that film and I was like, oh, well, so that's the thing that happened, oh fuck. There are so many different interpretations, a lot of stuff that goes into a lot of detail, and I thought to myself, you know what, I kind of just want to put out what I thought about the film, what I thought it all meant. So this is a sort of explanation, summary, interpretation video of The Wailing, which I mentioned I was going to do in my review. It's here now, this is it, you're watching it. I've never done one of these before. Whew, it's exciting. I'm excited. But that does mean that inevitably I am going to be going into spoilers about The Wailing because, well, I mean, I don't really need to explain that one, do I? But I'm talking about a film. It's going to get spoiled, guys. So if you have not watched The Wailing the entire way through, get the hell out of here, man. Just put everything down. Run. Get the fuck away from here. So now that that spoiler warning's out of the way, we're all on the same page. Let's get straight on into this mother flipper. So I missed The Wailing when it came out originally last year, but everyone was all, hey Stu, you should check it out, it's so awesome. So I figured, hey, let's check this one out, it's probably so awesome. And then I checked the runtime of this thing and I saw it was over 2.5 hours long. So I went back to everyone and I was like, hey guys, The Wailing, more like the way too long, am I right? Am I right? And then they were like, Stu, this is an intervention. These jokes have gone on for far too long. We're starting to lose sight of you as a friend, and every day we grow distant. Anyway, I did eventually check it out, and holy wow. Blah, blah. This film wasn't just terrifying. It was an absolute head badoink-a-doink. And I'm guessing you probably agree with this, seeing as, well, this is an explanation video, and you're 2 minutes in. So, yeah. So with that in mind, we're going to try and work out just what the Jong-Goo is actually going on in The Wailing, hopefully clearing up a bunch of questions you might have about it. Now, I'm not going to touch on every little detail in the film, because there's just so much here, and if I go down that rabbit hole, I'll have to grow out a full beard, you know, buy newspaper clippings, get some red tape, make an intricate web of red tape and newspaper clippings on the wall of a dark room in a worn-out warehouse. You know, I was not really about that, guys, not gonna lie. But I will be touching on the main points that I've managed to decipher from my own interpretations, as well as a bunch of other people's interpretations I've been reading online, because there's just so much meaty stuff that seems to be conflicting, so yeah. But before we get into what was actually happening in that batshit mental final half hour of The Wailing, there's a couple of things I think we need to clear up first. I've come up with 3 main questions that I had upon the first watching of The Wailing and that I think a lot of people have had online as soon as they finished the film. Those being, who is the Japanese stranger, who is the shaman, and who is that mysterious woman in white? And I think we need to understand who these characters are before we can begin to even explain what was actually happening at the end of The Wailing. So we actually see a couple of different versions of the Japanese stranger, as the villagers call him, in the film. Up until the shaman's ritual sequence halfway through the film, the Japanese stranger is a shaman himself who is mostly controlled, possessed, whatever you want to call it, by the devil. He's performing rituals to basically fuck with the townsfolk in the hopes of getting their souls and destroy the village under the command of the devil. And we find this out when Jong-Goo raids his home and finds a ritual room and a bunch of the possessions of the people that are going batshit fucking mental in the village. But I do think he did actually come to the village originally as a shaman, as a good guy, before the devil got his sneaky old claws into him. So anyway, after the rituals, the devil's spirit seems to pass from the Japanese stranger to the dead guy in the van whose name I can't remember, who then becomes a kind of zombie and ends up attacking Jong-Goo and the gang. Which, side note, sounds like an awesome little band. That needs to happen. That needs to happen, guys. He's going to do it. At this point, it seems to me that the Japanese stranger is actually free of the devil and is, as much as we're probably going to see in the film, himself. Which kind of explains why he tried to get the shit out of there quicker than you can say, I have no idea how much my head's going to get fucked by the end of this film, please help me. But that doesn't really go too well for him, and he ends up taking a little tumble down a cliff and eventually dies on the roadside before getting thrown over the roadside by Jong-Goo and his pals. All the times that we see the Japanese stranger after this death sequence, i.e. in the creepy ass cave at the end of the film, it isn't actually the Japanese guy. it is the actual devil using the form of the Japanese stranger from before, which is evidenced when he transforms into that fucking terrifying devil thing, which I don't ever want to see ever again, because oh my goodness gracious, I'm not ever sleeping again, help me. So now let's talk about who the shaman is. So up until the final act, the film wanted us to think that the shaman came to help Jong-Goo rid his daughter of the Japanese stranger and the devil's curse, which was going on and affecting the entire village. Nope, not what happened. Didn't know that, no. The shaman was actually working with the Japanese stranger, aka the devil. His ritual, in inverted commas, which he tells Jong-Goo not to interrupt, isn't actually freeing the daughter and hurting the Japanese stranger like we think it is. It's actually making sure the daughter remains under the curse, and the damage to the Japanese stranger is actually just really good editing. We're just seeing the devil's spirit move from him to the dead guy in the van. We're not actually seeing the Japanese guy being affected by the shaman's ritual like it wants us to think. And there are also a couple of key pointers towards the fact that the shaman is in cahoots with Monsieur Devil. First of those being that at one point we see him wearing the same nappy style underwear as the Japanese guy. But more importantly, the shaman vomits blood at the end, which I don't know about you guys, is not something I tend to do on the reg. But this seems to be a sort of cleansing or releasing of the evil spirit that's within the shaman at this point in the film. But the shaman actually ends up being scared back into working with the devil by a big old swarm of locusts which attacks his cars as he tries to get the fuck away from everything. And finally, it's also revealed at the end of the film that the shaman has got the photographs of the victims which Jong-Goo found in the Japanese stranger's house earlier on in the film in the back of his car. So finally, who is the mysterious woman in white? Again, this is another bit of clever misdirection here from the director. We think for a lot of the film that this woman is actually bad news, but it turns out she's the good guy here. It seems to me she's basically the village's guardian angel, and she's trying to stop the devil from successfully murdering everyone in the town and getting their souls and destroying everything. I mean, when we see her earlier in Jong-Goo's vision, she seems a little bit creepy and off, and we're very suspicious, but it does seem like she is just trying to nudge him on the path of discovering exactly what's going on here. And when we see her during the ritual sequence, at first it seems a little bit odd that she's there, but with the ending in hindsight, it does seem like she's trying to stop the devil leaving the Japanese stranger's body. At the end of the film, she also makes physical contact with Jong-Goo, which suggests that she is an actual person there because, as the devil explains at the end, spirits and ghosts do not have a physical form. You can't really feel or touch them. So the fact that she grabs onto Jong-Goo's hand at the end suggests that in the kind of same way that the devil was possessing people, she must be a physical form that is perhaps being possessed by a nice, good entity? I don't know. That one's open to interpretation. Either way, the mysterious woman in white seems to be good news for the village as opposed to the evil devil. So with these three main questions answered, let's go back and take another look at that ending just to get a grip of exactly what's going on here. So after the death of the actual Japanese stranger on the cliffside on the road, Jong-Goo thinks that his daughter's suffering is probably going to stop, but it doesn't. We now know after seeing the entire film that that's because the devil is actually still present, hiding out in his little cave like a weirdo, but Jong-Goo thinks it's probably because he got it wrong and it's actually the mysterious woman in white who is the evil spirit in the village instead of the weird Japanese stranger. This is also reinforced for him by the shaman who rings him up and is like, bro, it's totally the weird woman, it's totally her. So at this point, if the devil's plan works, Jong-Goo's daughter will go whack, murder her family, and then capture their souls. How? Through the camera. It's actually an old religious belief that photographs capture a person's soul, so this is kind of a play on that, and the film uses that as a theme throughout. This is also why the Japanese guy had all of the photos of the victims, because that was him capturing people's souls. I know, it's crazy. I got tingles on my feet. So herein lies the main basis of the final act. The mysterious woman, in an effort to save the souls of Jong-Goo's family, has set up a trap around the daughter and the house. She knows at this point that she can't actually save the family because of the father's sinning when he threw the Japanese guy off the cliff, and earlier in the film he's generally done a lot of sinning. He's not the great guy, guys. But the woman can at least protect the family's souls, or at least stop them from going to the devil. The trap's also kind of a test of faith of sorts for Jong-Goo. If he trusts her, he passes the test and his family's souls are safe from the devil. But if he doesn't believe her, he goes back to help his family despite her best efforts, and fails the test and foils the trap, which leaves the souls for the devil to take. And we know now that in the end he fails that test by going back to help his family, because he's convinced that the woman is actually evil because of the things she's wearing, which are actually items of clothing from the previous victims, which he notices in little flashbacks. Now he adds those dots up because obviously it's very similar to the Japanese stranger's house in which they found a bunch of items of the victims there, and if you remember, that's basically what convinced them that the Japanese guy was behind it. So it makes sense that he was like, oh, hold on, that's weird, maybe she's the bad guy. And while it's not actually explicitly stated why she's wearing these objects, I'd probably assume it's part of her way of helping the victims. So if the Japanese guy's using that for weird, creepy, evil stuff to do to the victims, maybe she's got to use items to do her good spells, but that's about as deep as I'm going to go into that stuff. Anyway, as Jong-Goo walks through the courtyard, we see a beautiful shot from behind of him walking underneath a flower trap, which is obviously set up by the mysterious woman, and the flower above him actually shriveling and seeming to die, which seems to be symbolic of his failing and a lack of faith at this point, but it's also a signifier that the trap is being broken and he's basically just fucked it all here. So he returns home to find all of his family murdered and just blood everywhere. I mean, just fucking... I mean, that ain't ragu, man. That's blood. Someone died. And sure enough, his daughter Hyojin is standing there with a knife. And she's looking pretty creepy while you're at it as well. Now, we don't actually see what happens between the two of these guys at this moment in time, because it then actually cuts to the shaman returning to the house to, that's right, photograph the bodies. The shaman is collecting the souls in this moment. Now, it seems to me that Jong-Goo's daughter did in fact stab him or do something to him before the shaman arrives at this point, and the shaman seems to think that he's dead, therefore ends up taking his photograph to take his soul. But when he leaves, we do hear Jong-Goo speak his daughter's name again, so clearly he's not actually dead in this moment, which does leave this ending kind of open to interpretation. But in my opinion, I mean, this guy's not making it, guys. And honestly, I think I prefer that as an ending to anything else, because it's quite a good tragic end to what is essentially a very fucked up story here. But again, I mean, maybe he got up and danced to ABBA after the credits rolled. Who knows? So that's really it. Hopefully I've cleared up some stuff for you. But if you're really still struggling to grasp it all, here's a better way, or very simple way, of thinking of it all. The film to me seems to basically be a fight between good and evil. The evil is the Japanese stranger or monk and the shaman, hoping to destroy the village and absorb its souls, and the good is the mysterious woman in white who is the guardian of the village. The genius of this film is the way in which it withholds certain pieces of information, knows when to drop them in just the right time to keep us guessing and on the edge of our seat, and it keeps us as an audience guessing in the same way as it does its lead character Jong-Goo. The details may be open to interpretation, but I think one thing is definitely clear here. In the Wailing, evil wins. Oh, Jesus. Alright, we gotta do something about this editing future, Stu. You're throwing me about the place. I don't like it, okay? I don't like it. So that's a thing that just happened. That was my first explanation video. It was fun. I quite enjoyed it. Now, I've dealt with a lot of stuff in this here explanation video of the Wailing, but there is still a lot of stuff that I haven't 100% delved into because it would just take too long. So, in the comments below, we're just going to have a big old discussion about what we think is actually going on in the Wailing. Certain plot holes that stick out for people, things that are unexplained, because I know there's certain things which I still can't quite explain 100%. So, it would be amazing if you could whack your interpretation down below. It doesn't have to be like 100 years long paragraph there, because I know it could be with the amount of stuff that's in this film. Just let me know whether you agree with some of the stuff I've been picking up, whether you disagree, anything you want to fill me in on that you think might have been done differently or might have actually had a different interpretation. That would be amazing. Let's have a beautiful old discussion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this little video, this type of explanation video, please let me know. I've never done anything like it before, and I'm interested to do some more like this, delving deeper into some other films that I absolutely love. So let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. That would be amazing. And if you want to check out any other shit I've got to say, go ahead and click subscribe. But until next time, stay beautiful, mother truckers.